think it's going to try and fake me out every time that, like, it doesn't want to work again this week. Oh, it did that to me that one week, and that was so frustrating. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. How's it going? It's a whole lot cooler here this morning. We had like a polar vortex, and all of a sudden it's autumn. Just like that. Which is great, because I was just thinking about writing, I'm working on, I did the outline for the October video. I'm working on that this morning. And then I remembered I had to be on here. So I was like, oh shit, I can't type that out today. I have to do that. I have to be on camera again, because I'm not used to doing this every week anymore. Ah, yikes. Anyways, it is a gorgeous day. I hope everybody else is having a gorgeous day. And Kitty Cat is going to be a little bit late. She messaged me a little bit ago and said that she's going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. So my apologies for being like 3 minutes late. It's been a busy morning. What can I say? These things happen. You guys are great, so I'm sure that no one will care. I'm not sure what we're doing this morning. I think we're done with Caliban. It's over, right? Cheers for anybody who got all the way through that. That was amazing, wasn't it? I'm going to be specifically referencing it in the October video, naturally. I mean, with so much depth of material there, it'd be foolish not to utilize it somehow, right? I've been taking notes the whole time, so I know which week I need to go back to find the specific point that I want. And it's going to be a good time, you guys. I'm hoping to. It's going to be a little bit of a different style. I'm trying something new, I'm not just going to go back to cranking them out every week, because that was insane. So we're going to have a longer, more in-depth style video from me at the end of October. But it's got to be about witches, right? I make a video about witches every October, every Halloween. That's just something I've done. Hey, what's up, Rhoda K? How you doing? Hello, Alan. What's up, everybody? I basically just introduced myself. I do a witch video every year for Halloween. That's really the theme that I'm going to be carrying forward on the channel. I'm 32 and have disabilities, meaning I have special needs and a learning disability, and I have autism. Plus, I used to get bullied a lot when I was in school, and I graduated from school. Those are, well, congrats on graduating anyway, I guess, right? I'm just kind of hanging out, waiting for my partner in crime to get here. We had been doing a reading of an academic work by Silvia Federici called Caliban and the Witch, which the title does not lie. It is about witches. Well, the witch trials anyway, which some people will tell you that, they didn't actually execute any witches. None of those people. And I don't know about that. I think a lot of the folk wisdom and folk medicine that those people practiced, then and still would probably be considered witchcraft, but I digress. That's actually going to be in my video at the end of October. Oh yeah, Caliban with a C. It does sound like Taliban, though. I've thought that myself. You're the first person to actually say that out loud. Alan, bruh, you can be anything on the internet. No need to stick to what happened to you in high school. That's true. For all you know, he just graduated like last year, though, at Salem Laws. Yeah. Sometimes you will live stream on YouTube. You know what? Me too. Solid stuff. Yeah. Anyway, Caliban is a character from The Tempest by Shakespeare. It's an academic work. So there's like layers to it. We do deeper stuff around here a lot of the time. Or at least I attempt. I make the attempt. I have over 216 subscribers. Pretty good, pretty good. That's not nobody, is it? Imagine if you were sitting in a room that had over 200 people in it. Like, that's a crowd, man, right? So yeah, I have plans for this autumn coming up on the channel. That's what I was talking about. And I am, of course, gonna utilize some of the information that we got over the summer from that amazing book that our good friend Kitty Cat was reading. She's going to be here, an English seminar, Exploring Deeper. Go walk the Appalachian Mountains at night. That's not very nice. That's not something I would wish on my worst enemy. That's not very nice. And I live in the Appalachian Mountains. That's not very nice. It's just that if I get a package like from Walmart or eBay or Amazon, I will unbox it on YouTube. Oh, right on. Right on. It's not so much an English seminar. We've been using the text to explore themes that I've been working with on the channel for a long time. And I'm trying to use it as kind of like a bouncing off point to sort of make a pivot from what I had been doing, which was much more hard political and just like, y'all, politics is so exhausting. And I am still a political person, obviously. I think a lot of us are, especially these days. But just taking them on head on, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You know, you just end up getting absorbed into the hydra or the disgusting amoeba that modern media has become, right? So, you know, exploring other aspects of life here on the channel. Yeah, I don't think that that's such an outrageous idea. And we're going to start at the end of October with taking yet another different angle on witchcraft. It's actually a pretty deep and multifaceted topic. Would you rather lose all your past memories or never be able to make new ones? Well, as far as which one is more survivable, you'd have to go with losing the old ones, right? Because having total permanent amnesia is super sad. I don't know. You could at least always re-meet the people that you care about. As opposed to, you know, if you can't make new memories, you could have entire generations of your family that you just no idea. Perhaps disillusionment from politics is the first step on the path towards a life saved by art or religion. Oh, honey. Thank you, but I'm not disillusioned with politics. I see it as, frankly, a pervasive kind of thing that humans just tend to do, you know? As far as like the international or intranational even, like, relations of it, the social it is. It's a form of, oh, Kitty Cat's here. Hooray! Just popping in to wish you a good week. I'm literally in Spain. Wow! Now you're in Spain? That's all you have to say? Oh my god. Look at my hair. I should have washed my hair. Girl, are you here or what? Oh, thank goodness.
Hello?
Hey! I'm so glad you're here. Somebody just accused me of being disillusioned by politics. Oh my god.
Oh. Well, I'm not even ready, so we can talk while I get set up.
Right on.
So I'm running a little late.
In Spain? What part of Spain? What part of Spain are you in, Belle? Ooh, somebody inquiring minds want to know.
Spain? I'm jealous.
Right.
No.
I mean, he lives in Europe. They live, I don't care. Belle, my good friend, lives in Europe anyway. Right? As if that isn't cool enough. And then you have to go to Spain. Oh my god.
Anywhere in the world that you could move to escape.
To escape? Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Where would you go? You don't know? Have you never
Probably not. Probably not Spain. To escape the United States? I don't know. We live in a pretty rural part of the United States, and you know, like, We
But
live
even just like, not saying that you even would. I'm just saying you've never thought about like, where would I go?
I legitimately have no idea. France, I hear, doesn't have extradition treaties.
Yeah, but it's still got lots of shady. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I know
Again,
where I'd
I've
go.
never really thought about. You have, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Where would you flee to?
Daydreaming
Where would you?
away.
Where
I'll
would
do
you
3
flee
guesses.
to for
Three
safety?
guesses.
Well, not Canada, obviously. Which is the standard American
That'd be a
answer.
dumb idea.
That's the standard American answer. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Oh,
Mexico is the other standard American answer, obviously. Fuck. But I'm gonna go. Are there still any communist countries in South America?
there's not communist countries anywhere.
Oh. Okay.
So there's no, except for there's some that would be more closer because
Yeah.
they're more. They've got more of a national system. They're not
But okay,
privatized.
I'm trying to like figure if there's a place you might go that you agree with more. So Scandinavia, then maybe, or some place where you could disappear to, like I don't know, darkest Africa or something. I don't know.
Well, name 3 countries. Just try to get 3 countries.
Now it's a geography test. Now it's a geography test. That's not fair.
Can't name 3 countries.
I can, but I don't know that they would fit any intelligent criteria like I just tried to mention. Okay, like that's a cross reference.
That's close. That's close.
Okay.
That's in the vicinity, but no, not Venezuela.
I said Scandinavia, so like I don't know.
That's not a country.
I know it's not. I know it's not, but it has some in it, so I'm getting there. So Sweden then. I don't know.
It's more in the vicinity of.
Fuck, you're breaking up. The vicinity of what now?
Venezuela, right?
Okay.
Someone said Venezuela.
Okay.
LOL.
Okay, so South America. Close. I did guess South America. God damn it. Okay. Just tell me, will you? The suspense is killing me. I'm never gonna get.
I'd run off to Chile.
Oh, okay.
Because it's all. It's on the It's on the west side. I'm in Canada, on the west side, on the coast. So we've got the same climate and temperament.
Okay.
So, except for it goes all the way from like to the equator, all the way down almost to the Antarctic.
Right, okay, it's tall and skinny.
You can move and you can flee more south to get to the colder areas that you need to go without having to worry about passports.
Right on. Yeah, a friend of mine spent some time in Chile when she was in college. So yeah, I know where that one is.
Yeah, I'd probably go more towards the south because out where they have the fjords. Coast. It's got a lot of like extra land that is uninhabited, which is great. Small towns that are self-sufficient, autonomous, and yeah, I'd go there, man. I'd go to Chile.
Right on. They speak Spanish there, right?
Admit it. I am miserable.
She never denied that. You must be new here. She never denied that. Like, she's our agony aunt, aren't you, Kitty?
Hold on. I'm breaking up. Okay. Are you there?
Yeah. Hello. Hello. Doggone it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you fine.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know why my camera just knocked right the fuck out.
Oh my gosh.
But that's okay because it's at the page where it's supposed to be.
Oh.
So that's fine. It doesn't
okay. See, I'm like clearly trying. I have too many balls in the air right now because I can't remember if we just finished Caliban or if we were about to finish. Okay.
We did. We're on a whole brand new book that we're going to be getting into.
Wow. Breaking up because you're too poor to get good internet? Oh, that's so funny. That's funny because we were just talking about actually they're being screwed over by their provider. We were just talking about that last week. So
Yeah, no, Mickey, I still have to figure out those stupid. I haven't did that triangular thing. I have them. I'm paying for them, but I haven't set it up yet. Still.
Okay, so you're too lazy to have good internet.
That's right. I'm not too bored. I'm just too lazy.
Here's to that.
Right. Cheers.
Mm-mm-mm.
All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna put some stuff away on the table so I have to make room.
Okay.
So we'll just talk.
Yeah.
Until I'm done.
We can shoot the breeze. We usually got, I think last week we did for an hour before we actually got going anywhere.
Yeah, we totally did.
But like, there's less to catch up on this time. It's only been a week.
Yeah, it's true. It only has been a week, but
I guess what I would say is thank you in advance for taking another look at the book, and to reiterate that experiment that gets mentioned, I'm thinking I'm going to rewrite it and turn it into something that actually means anything and matters. So like, let me know.
Okay.
Let me know if you notice that that's like a loose end that never gets resolved or done anything with.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I won't be able to look at it though until I think I said that in my email. I won't be able to look at it like out in the boonies.
Well, then I'm not going to talk to you again between now and then. So I just figured I'd mention, so you get back to it and you're like, not like, wait, what was I doing this
Amanda?
For? Wait, what?
I think this might be Amanda.
Oh, that's right. You did mention this too. Yeah, that's very funny.
That is funny.
Oh, what there? That's an emoji. It's too small for me to see.
Yeah, I have no clue what that is. Is it
type bigger?
What is that?
Oh my goodness, we have too much demonic fun around here for her to stand, I guess. Jeez, wasn't that like a year ago? Am I out of my gourd here? Am I misremembering this?
I think.
That was like a year ago. That was last summer.
I mean, she's probably been lurking this whole time. I mean,
no, yeah, but like the direct contact was like a year ago, right? Wasn't it? Like that's. She's gonna like my Halloween video, and I mean that sincerely because it's a Christian grifter, so she's lying to good Christian people, okay? And I can't stand this girl. That's not why. Yeah, not Amanda. Amanda's not in my video, but like the girl that I'm making my Halloween video.
No, I know. I'm just saying the girl that you're up.
Yeah, her name's Ashley. Actually, that might be confusing, Amanda, Ashley, but no. Ashley Jones. Yeah, Ashley Jones. I'm like, girl, you can like take a pen name or something. That's the most generic name I've ever heard. But okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about generic.
Yeah. It's millennial flavor generic, but still.
Yeah.
So like, no, she's absolutely 100%. I used to be a witch. And then I was saved by Jesus. I'm like, this person was never a witch. She can quote scripture to beat the band, okay? Girl does not know shit about witchcraft. Nothing. She knows as much.
Neither do I, really. I mean,
no, right, but like I do. And this is like. I don't pretend. No, but I do. And I've just been, wandering into more esoteric corners the last couple of years. And this just struck me. It's like, you know what? I'm hearing a lot about, like, there are a couple, like, witchy creators who I've noticed have done, like, reactions to ex-witches and, like, laughing at them and whatever. But this one struck me as not just silly, but, like, straight up lying. Like, what she was saying made no sense and was stuff I had never seen. And, like, Wicca is the church I grew up in, okay? Like, I know these people. I have met these people. Okay, I used to have
one of your parents or something was all.
Yeah, my dad. My dad is a Wiccan priest, etc. I'll put it in the October video. I don't want to lay everything out because I'm working on something. But like, I used to have regular cookouts with these people. Okay, I've and just yes. Um, and anyways, this was all the way back to the mid 90s, early 90s, like years, 30 years more. Okay. What year is it? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when I
Yeah,
hear
yeah, I know.
somebody that says something I've never even heard, I'm like, I don't know that that's true, like at all. I don't know that that's like, and then when it's thing after thing after thing after thing that's just bullshit, I'm like, yeah, you're taking advantage of the fact that most people don't know anything about what you're talking about. Yours is completely like just, and some of them are really
Yeah.
funny. Like, so this is my Halloween video.
Okay, that sounds good. So on that note, I mean, I don't know. I have my own opinions about Amanda's purpose of why she's doing what she's doing, but I don't know, maybe I'll
Wait. Since you brought her back up, can you see this hidden comment? I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I made you an admin like that. I don't know how to do that.
I don't know.
Right after the emoji and right before Rad Mama's better, bruh. Like, can you see this?
Oh, Rad Mom is better, brah?
Yeah, the
No.
one right
It's gotta
before
be
that.
Amanda.
Okay. No,
The
the one
insects?
like
No.
no. There's one that you can't see.
No. What's it
Okay.
say?
Oh, I don't want to say it. It's like not. It's not good. I'm just going to
Well, I
go
know
ahead and show it so you
it
can see
doesn't
it
matter.
because there's you and me and like one other person watching. So to hell with it. Look
Well,
at
I mean, I
that.
don't care. Who cares?
Look at that.
I was not expecting that.
I just don't want to say it out loud.
Like it. I
It's
think
not
it's
like
a
it's
little funny.
no, yeah. It's not like it's the most horrific thing I've ever said. I just don't want to say it out loud. I just don't want to. Like, oh,
Shit, Jesus. Not literally, Jesus.
No. I mean, what? Oh no! Don't take the Lord's name in vain, cat. Stop.
That's
Oh
hilarious.
my gosh. Mm.
I'm breaking up a bit, so hold on. Let me just try to find that.
Okay. Man, we are just crackling today, though, aren't we? Wow. It's fun. And we're starting a new book, which as soon as you get back to the good spot, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that is before we lose our momentum.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should go out and come back in because it's frozen. Like I'm waving my hand in front of the thing, nothing's happening. So I wonder if I should just leave and then just come right back. I could just go back to that link, right?
I don't see why not. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be right back in just a few seconds here.
All right, let's try it. If I don't see it, I'll send you another one. No, I can't do that. I don't know. It's only the one link, I guess, because we're in the same digital location, right? I don't know. I suppose because if somebody went to that link after we were live, it would just bring them to the video, right? Like that's how the internet works. That's how links work, right? I mean, good. She's back. Oh, good. Hello. Oh, look at that. We have a picture now.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah. It's looking good.
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
can see that?
Yeah.
There. I was hoping to be able to actually have the whole book sort of framework lined out, but then my printer started acting up and I had to get new ink. Then I got the new ink, put it in, but then it's for some reason it reset itself, and I have to go in and like take out the scanning chip because HP printers won't let you do like reusable ink or any other cartridges but their own, so you have to, and they're really expensive, and there's a little chip that scans the cartridges to make sure that it's not refilled with someone else's ink and that it's not a different brand. But there's a way to disable it, right? So I've done that before, but then for some reason it reset itself, and so I have to go back and try to figure that out again to remove that. Yeah.
Oh my god. Note to self: do not buy an HP printer. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think almost all of them do that now. All the new
I wouldn't
printers do
know.
that.
I haven't owned a printer in 10 years. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, they started doing that, but like there is a way to disable it, but most people don't know about it, and they just end up being like, "Well, what the hell?" So they end up just buying a new cartridge every time, which is so expensive and so wasteful.
Yeah. It's a hell of a racket. That's part of why I don't own one.
Yeah. No, I know. It's annoying, but I mean, it works for also school for my kid because they don't send newsletter or letters anymore or anything. It's always by email, and so to get like a field trip, I have to like print it out, sign it, and then give it to him. Like, yeah, they're so cheap. That's how cheap they are. They won't even give you like a paper for a field trip notice.
Oh my gosh. Is this a public school? Your taxes pay for this nothing?
No, well, of course not. Well, our taxes go into the pockets of like politicians and their friends.
Wait. No, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Your taxes pay for nothing. How nice.
Basically. But yeah, so I wanted to finish doing all this sort of setups. I could show you all the chapters that we'd be doing, and but I only got so far that it pooped out on me.
That's okay. It looks great.
Yeah.
For now,
So what we'll be going into is just the preface, because I think it's important. You'll know when I get there why it's important.
Okay.
So, because this is a revised new edition, right? So, and talks about like the reception of it and like some of the criticisms, and she addresses it. So it's just interesting. And so this will give it sort of like a taste for not next week, but the week after when I come back from camping.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be September by then. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I know. So I'm just gonna get my stuff here.
And I've got to stop drinking this coffee. It's giving me a headache. Wow, that's wild.
Oh, crazy.
Well, I kind of wasn't. I didn't have any coffee for a while over the summer. I was just trying to reset and relax and sleep a little.
Yeah, I always have coffee in the morning. I have 1 cup. It gets me up, but I can't have 2 because then it gets me too up, and I get jittery and crazy.
Yeah, this is my second one of the day, and it's a little early because I was going to be on camera, and I just thought, well, screw it, I'll have it, when I sit down. But
God, if I had 2 cups of coffee, I'd be fucking buzzing all over the place.
Oh my God, when I was 20, I was drinking 8.
Oh, when I was younger, yeah, but not anymore. I know.
No. Well, I'm going to listen and put it away and not make myself sick.
Right.
That's fine. Boring old ladies. That's all. Nothing to see here. Just a couple of boring old ladies.
Yeah. So I went to see that. I saw it come up on my feed, the YouTube live, right? And you asked about what they were reading, and I can't remember. It was like it's some sort of like Swedish thing. It sounded like Oppenheimer, but it's not Oppenheimer. It's got to be a different name.
Okay.
But it was like it was an opinion piece. So it's like it's just some dude waxing poetic about the inferiority of women and why. Or not even why, not even why, just making proclamations. And then she's like, and she said something about, I want to see you and Emma break down. Like, break down what? It's just an opinion. There's nothing to it. It's fluff. Like, what am I supposed to break down? These are just random statements. I don't know what to analyze here. There's no historical context, no citing of biological sources for this opinion to be why you have that opinion, because what essentially he's doing is going backwards, which is not what you do when you in science. You don't start with the answer and try to figure out like why that answer. Whereas, like, because then you're just going to cherry pick, right? You're supposed to not do that in science, whether the hard sciences or social sciences. So I don't know what to break down for you there, because you can't make that assumption. You have to actually, get to that assumption with, facts, which
Oh
would
my
be
God.
starting in the hard sciences with biology and looking at the brain, which again, like I've said before, there's no evidence. There's no evidence for it, right? Especially it's evidence against that, considering it's a plastic malleable organ when it comes to personality, right? And so,
well, and you know what? I think that even if there's, regardless of whatever differences you might be able to observe or what their sources are, nobody is superior to anybody else. That's dumb.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Like,
that's one thing, but also, I mean, if you want to look at let's look at the differences. The only differences that exist that isn't malleable is the pituitary gland. When you go through puberty, releasing hormones, that's different. That's sex difference, and the brain matter and the size, which they like to point out. But the size doesn't have anything to do with personality or intelligence. It's about how proportionate it is to the body.
Right.
Or else there's animals with bigger brains than us, but they're not more they're not more evolved and aware and sentient like we are. So that doesn't make sense, right? You're coming to conclusions before you even try to look.
Bigger isn't better? Shocking.
Oh, right. And everything else is malleable, right? Because that needs to be for your orientating system to be able to react to its environment. So no, personalities are not fixed. That's ridiculous. And they're definitely not fixed for the sexes. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you don't like facts? Okay. But I guess that's my breakdown. That would be my breakdown.
Well, they need that stuff in order to, like I say, have their hierarchy thing that they love so much.
Right?
That's where all that always goes.
Yeah, well, exactly. He has, the person whoever wrote it has the answer, and then he's just saying what he says is the answer. But why should anyone believe him? He's not giving you any evidence for it. So
you're
just
right.
making proclamations, which is very faith-based sort of mentality, which not surprising since she's a Christian.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And like, okay, have fun with
evidence.
that.
That's what faith is: believing something without any evidence to it. So
Right. So I don't know. I don't know how, like you say, you're supposed to break down what someone's faith like articles are. How do you do that? How do you do that?
Exactly. Like, what am I supposed to break down? There's nothing to break down because he hasn't given anything.
Right. Yeah. And if you start with your thesis being women are inferior because whatever you say after that is irrelevant. I don't care what you're like. I'm not interested in what your justification for that is.
Evidence-based thing, then I guess I'd have to accept it, but the evidence-based goes against that.
Yeah.
So I don't know
No. They've been trying to prove that. For so long.
Really hard.
For so long. I don't believe that anyone's ever actually going to manage to do it at this point. I'm pretty sure it's just not true.
Because it's not factual based. It's not based on objective material reality or what the science says. So
I'm pretty sure it's not true. As a woman, I've been one most of my life.
Yeah.
You might say I'm something of a lay expert in the subject. I just don't think it's true. So if that's your thesis, I'm not interested in anything else you have to say.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, it's mostly just like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Nothing. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do with that, and that's actually disappointing. It would be fun to have, a real rivalry with somebody that you could sink your teeth into, right? Wouldn't that be fun? Like. And then everyone could get more views and it would be a win all around and we could get a debate going. I would be down for that. But she just wants to insult people and do ad hominems and like appeals to authority. And ad hominems and appeals to authority are boring.
Well, when it comes to Amanda, but I believe obviously this is just speculation. But I don't even think she believes the things that she spouts. She's very different when she's off camera.
Yeah, you said that.
And then when there's an audience, it flips. So in my opinion, I just think she's apathetic. I don't think she cares about any of this. What she likes is an audience, and she has one in a manosphere. They'll simp for her because they don't have anyone, and they feel so like isolated and alone. Finally, this woman is listening to us, and so they simp for that, and that gives her validation from the audience, right? And the central focus being on her. That's what I really think it's about. I don't even think that she fucking believes any of this shit. She just doesn't care about any of this shit. That's what I think. Personally, that's just speculation.
Okay. So that would be someone with very little scruples then, right?
Yeah. But I mean, whatever. Do your thing. I don't know what to tell you. Like, go ahead, do your thing. But I'm not your enemy. No matter how hard you try to make me your enemy, I don't hate you.
No, like I said, a rivalry. There's a difference between having a rivalry where everyone wins and being enemies. Oh my gosh.
It's not even a rivalry. Like, I don't have the feelings of like rivalry with her, even now. Like, I just don't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Because,
there's nothing there.
The way I see it is that because a lot of people see it as a sort of like conservative against, say, liberal or whatever. I don't see it that way. I see class. And you're in my same class, girl, in very, very similar ways. You're a woman, you're white, and you're working class. Yeah. We're in the same class. We're not enemies. You just don't know that.
Right.
But you're not my enemy. I'm gonna focus on my enemies.
It's the potential for aggression though that like makes me like, ooh, like, oh my god.
She doesn't have the power though. That's the thing. She doesn't really have the power to do anything. She's just she's in the same class. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It has no influence.
Okay. I would argue like being in the same class as somebody does not mean you have no power to hurt them. Like I don't think that's true. Not systemically.
Yeah.
Probably, but to say that you can't, launch a personal attack on them, laterally, I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah, but you've got the same amount as a chance of like actually doing like having that succeed as you do because it's systemically. Like you said,
I think the issue
behind that, really.
The goal then would be to like fuck with their head, right? Like you try to psych them out or whatever.
Yeah, well, good luck, girl.
No, I know. I'm just like I see people do this to one another, and I'm just always wondering what's going on behind the scenes and like how, like watching the relationships, frankly, to put it like in a gushy sort of way, even when two people are sniping at one another, it's still a relationship. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I don't really get into the kind of individual nitty gritty,
No, I don't really. I don't anymore. It used to be the way that I would keep myself entertained. It was like, just for, I don't know, boredom. Like when my brain was half rotted from stress, I guess. I haven't watched any of that shit in a long time.
I understand that too. Like you can get caught in, especially if you disagree on things. But really, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't really have time for that shit. I really don't. And it really just realizing that you don't have time for that.
Right. Really. No, I definitely don't. And it also, but the thing that turned me off in the first place was that a lot of it just amounts to hating on some woman. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, I don't want to do that. Ugh.
Well, like I said, I see things in class. Like I see women as a class, not like, as an identity and on an individual level. I see classes because we live in a class society. So it makes sense to. And I mean, I'm not going to fight with people in my own class. Like I just maybe feel a little sad for them. Mm-hmm. Because if they're going to be wasting their time, they could be doing things that are more productive. That is not going to exploit them. Like there was a part where she was like talking about, I think, about how things are now, and like kind of with immigration, like owning the libs. I'm like, girl, it's sad. Why? Because you don't realize that those detention centers that you're cheering on are not for immigrants.
Right, right. You were saying that last week too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're for you. They're not. They put billions and billions of dollars in an infrastructure. What? To deport immigrants? Really? What are they going to do with those places after they leave and kick them out? Why wouldn't they save all those billions of dollars and just make it illegal and arrest the employers who employ them? That would get rid of all the immigrants and it'd be cheaper. The reason why they're setting all this shit up is because you are going to get hungry, because you're going to be out of a job. Yeah, you have your own salon, but the thing is, other people are not going to be getting their factory jobs back. Okay, that's for AI. They don't going to get their work back. And the tariffs, along with that, you're going to have to get your supplies in, and you're going to have to upcharge now by a large degree. Nobody's going to be able to afford it. Nobody's going to go and choose to go get their hair did at your salon if they can't even afford to eat. So guess what? That gets rid of your job. Your business is going to suffer, and it's going to fall apart, and you're going to have no money there for you. And by the time you realize that, it'll be too late because they've already set it up and you cheered it on for yourself. That's sad to me. So I don't really see it as a rivalry. I just find that really sad because it goes against her own defense. It goes like her mentality, right? And people that are the same, it goes against their own best interests.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's not for anyone else but you. They want you dead. You are a useless tool now to them because they have AI. They have no need for you. And there is a class war. Like I said before, Warren Buffett said it really fucking clearly. Yes, there's a class war and we're winning. They hate you. Like they hate the masses of people. They really are repulsed by you. And they see you now as useless. And you're cheering it on. Like I just think that's sad.
I was just referring to content strategy. I wasn't taking it that far. Like if she were a reasonable person, we could make something out of this. Boo-hoo. Be a bummer. That sucks. Like.
Well, it's just sad. It's pathetic. It's so pathetic. It's like, well, damn, that sucks, bitch. Like, all I can do is give you the info. But that's all you do. Is whatever you choose to do is your choice. I've never wanted that to myself.
No. Ooh, where did my stool go? Doggone it. Oh. There we go.
I didn't say that to her, but because I'm obviously not talking, and I'm not going to write that all out.
Right, yeah.
Just thinking that. I'm like, oh, it's so sad.
Well, anyway, she's still here and you said it to her. So anyways, Maria Mies is the lady who wrote our new book, right?
The what?
What's the lady who wrote our new book?
This is the author, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had a brain fart.
No. I'm trying to. It was a 90-degree. It was a sharp turn. It was, but I'm trying to keep us on track. What was the name of it again? Remind me.
It's Patriarchy and Accumulation on a World Scale: Women in the International Division of Labor.
Oh, ow. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, just light reading over here for us on the Rad Mom channel. Woo!
But this is going to be a little bit light reading because it's just a preface to the new edition and before.
Okay.
So we got preface to the new edition. Then with the sub chapters, books have their fate, women's work under capitalism, new questions about an old problem, capitalism is different, and books have their history, how this book was received. So, and then we go to the forward. It's going to be probably a shorter read. But what I'm hoping is doing one chapter every time we come here. So it's going to be a little bit longer, like how it was for the last two chapters with Caliban and the Witch, that length.
Okay.
Which I don't think is a problem. I don't think so anyways. So.
No, that still ended up being less than an hour, I think.
Yeah. So it should be fine. I'm just right now got to hold on. My stupid thing is running out of batteries.
Oh my God, no.
I know, right? Everything.
Oh, no.
I'll be right back. I gotta get something.
Okay. That'll give me a chance to go over my usual bullet points that I try and say here before we dive into our material here, where Kitty Cat is doing us all the wonderful favor of reading some stuff while I reorganize the channel in the background and deal with some personal stuff. So I'm going to mute myself while she's talking, and anybody, if you have comments, feel free to make them. I'm going to be taking notes, and then we'll have a little powwow at the end before we go. Oh God, you said okay, and then broke up so terribly. Like what?
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay, it's because I was plugging in the phone.
Okay.
That's the only reason why.
Okay.
That's what I was saying, actually. I was like, I'm just plugging in the phone.
Okay.
So we're still good. We're still good.
Great.
And get this out here. Good. Come on. Okay. And get my coffee. Okay, I'm going to be starting right now.
Okie dokie. I'm going on mute. I'll see y'all at 45.
All right, so preface to the new edition. Books have their fate. When I started writing Patriarchy and Accumulation in the early 1980s, my intention was the functioning of capitalist patriarchy. My limited aim was to find answers to a few burning questions, which kept cropping up both in the struggles of the new women's movement and also in my classes in the Department of Social Pedagogy in Cologne, Germany, and later in the Women's and Development Program at the Institute of Social Studies in The Hague, where I had been teaching since 1979. The participants in this program were women from the South. For many of them, feminism was a strange phenomenon, something relevant to Western middle-class women, but they did not yet understand that the women question was theirs too. And then, women's work under capitalism, new questions about an old problem. Against the backdrop of this context and of my own experience in India, where I had lived for 5 years, it was obvious that I could not restrict my theoretical quest to a Eurocentric perspective. When feminists in Europe and North America began to ask why housework was not paid under capitalism, a question which challenged both liberal and Marxist economists, I could not limit this question to housewives in the industrialized North. What about women in the South? What about rural women there? What about small peasants in general and their relationship to capitalism? Obviously, there was a lot of work being done in this world that was not covered by the category economists use to define the relationship of workers to capital. This category was restricted to wage employment only, and to free wage employment at that, because it was protected by unions and labor laws. I was not the only one to ask similar questions around that time. Since the early 1970s, I had been working with two German friends, Claudia von Werhoff and Veronika Binholt-Thompson, who, like me, had lived and worked in the Third World, and tried to link this experience to the new feminist questions regarding women's work under capitalism. The result was that this questioning, which we shared with many feminists at that time, automatically led to a much broader horizon than is usually found in social research. But then, when one wanted to understand why women's reproductive work, as it was then still called, following Marxist terminology, had no value under capitalism, one was immediately faced with another theoretical problem. Either one had to explain this devaluation by the anatomical difference between men and women, as was done by the biological determinists, or one had to find a social and a historical explanation for this phenomenon. The problem was not simply difference between the genders. There was obviously a dominance relationship based on a long history of exploitation and oppression, which had to be taken into account. It was in this context that the concept of patriarchy became relevant for me. I had discovered patriarchy as a system during my PhD research on Indian women's role conflicts. When I came back, I discovered German patriarchy, which was structurally not as different as I had once thought. I began to understand that the exploitation and oppression of women are not just accidental phenomena, but are intrinsic parts of the system, a system which, moreover, has existed for at least 5,000 years, and which has penetrated and structured all great civilizations and cultures of the globe. The historical depth and geographical breadth of the system also became manifest in the course Women and Development at the ISS, where women from different cultural and religious backgrounds had come together. Although the system had developed many different cultural manifestations, some more brutal than others, it was structurally still the same. As soon as the students on the course understood this, they coined the slogan, "Culture divides us, struggle unites us." Hence, the issue of patriarchy not only immediately transcended the usual horizons of time and space, begging the question of its origin and expansion, but also gave rise to the question, what can we do to change this anti-woman system? Most women were not satisfied by a mere academic analysis and the statement that such a system prevails even in our modern era. They wanted to know how it all started, when and where, and how we could fight it. My own questioning went further and deeper. Apart from the question of its origin, I wanted to know why such a brutal system did not disappear with modernity or with capitalism, as both Marxists and liberals had predicted. What is the relationship between patriarchy and capitalism? Are they two systems? Are they one system? Is patriarchal exploitation and subordination necessary for an economic system based on extended accumulation? Or could this accumulation also happen without hierarchical exploitative gender relations? It was obvious that we could no longer be satisfied with the classical Marxist explanation, that this relation was only a secondary contradiction whose solution would come after the primary contradiction, the class antagonism between labor and capital, had been resolved. There was consensus at the time among feminists about this understanding, even among feminists of the left, the Marxists, and socialist feminists. No feminist accepted any longer that we women were only a secondary contradiction. But we were still left with the question of the intrinsic relationship between patriarchy and capitalism. We all knew, of course, that patriarchy preceded capitalism. Was it then correct to say that it simply continued as a kind of substructure? What was the great promise of modernity to abolish all feudal, patriarchal, and backward relationships not fulfilled when it came time to women? After all, feudalism had been abolished, at least in the industrialized world. Why had this not also happened with regard to the patriarchal relationship between the genders? The more the feminist movement developed, the more we discovered new manifestations of patriarchal structures and ideologies. In particular, the movement against violence against women battering, rape, pornography, sexual abuse in the workplace, violence against women in the media and advertising, challenged the prevailing myth that modernity had civilized the man-woman relationship, had tamed the erstwhile aggressive anti-woman tendencies of men. No, these were not just leftovers of a feudal past. This was the flesh and blood of modern, progressive capitalism. This was the heart of capitalism. It was capitalist patriarchy. It was the analysis of the role of housework under capitalism that provided the first theoretical understanding of the political economy of capitalist patriarchy. This movement had started around 1980, and it became clear that women's unpaid caring and nurturing work in the household was subsidizing not only the male wage, but also capital accumulation. Moreover, by defining women as housewives, a process which I then called housewifeization, not only did women's unpaid work in the household become invisible, unrecorded in GDP, and naturalized, that is, treated as a free good, but also her waged work was considered to be only supplementary to that of her husband, the so-called breadwinner, and thus devalued. The construction of women as mother, wife, and housewife was the trick by which 50% of human labor was defined as free resource. It was female labor. At the Congress, The Future of Women's Work in Bielefeld in 1983, Claudia von Wohlhoff, in her paper, The Proletarian is Dead, Long Live the Housewife, demonstrated not just that housework and housewifeization were models for women's labor, but that transnational capital, in its effort to break the dominance of trade unions and to flexibilize the labor, would eventually also housewife male labor. That is to say, men would be forced to accept labor relations which so far had been typical for women only. This means labor relations outside the protection of labor laws, not covered by trade unions and collective bargaining, not based on a proper contract, more or less invisible, part of the shadow economy. To enforce such labor relations, economic violence, that is, sheer necessity, was and is often insufficient. Violence was the secret of the system, not only when it came to the exploitation of women's labor and bodies, as had become clear in the discourse on housework and women battering. Violence was also the means by which foreign lands had been conquered, subordinated, and colonized by early European capitalists. Without this colonization, without the pillage and plunder of lands and people in Asia, Africa, and South and Central America, without the slavery of modern times, capitalism would not have got off the ground. Violence was the heart of what Marx had called the primitive accumulation of capital. But contrary to what Marx had believed, namely that this violence and this primitive accumulation had preceded capitalism proper, we saw that it continued up to our own day with regard to women and to the colonies, now calling developing nations, and with regard to nature, the foundation of all life and production. Nature was treated in the same one-sided exploitative way as a free good, as women's labor or the colonies were treated. To put it the other way around, women and the colonies were treated as nature. They were naturalized. Therefore, Claudia von Oerhoff and Veronica Benholt Thompson and I, following Rosa Luxemburg's analysis, began to talk of ongoing primitive accumulation as the secret of modern capitalism. Capitalism is different. If one included women's unpaid housework, the work of subsistence peasants, the work done under colonized conditions, and nature's production in one's analysis of the political economy of capitalism, one got a totally different picture of this system than that projected by economists. Capitalism was deeper and broader than students of economics learned from their textbooks. It was more than wage labor and capital. Moreover, it was, as Wallerstein back in 1974 had found out, a world system right from its beginning up to now. It could not be understood if one restricted one's analysis to the core countries of Europe or the industrialized countries. This analysis proved useful when I began to study women's work under the impact of what was called the new International Division of Labor. After the oil shock of the early 1970s, European, Japanese, and US corporations began relocating labor-intensive industries such as textiles, electronics, and toys to so-called cheap labor countries in Southeast Asia, or at the Mexican border. In these factories, assembled in free production zones, or in maquiladoras in Mexico, 80 to 90% of the workforce were young, unmarried women who had to work under almost forced labor conditions, without unions, without the protection of labor laws, and often threatened by direct violence. These women were usually fired when they got married because their employers did not want to pay any maternity benefits. I discovered that in their case, as in that of many other women workers in the colonies, Housewifization International was the theoretical device to devalue women's work and to construct them internationally as cheap labor. I tried to show the connections between the prevailing sexual division of labor and the international division of labor in the global economy. Transnational corporations would not have moved their production to Southeast Asia or to the Mexican border had they been forced to employ well-paid, unionized male workers, as in the USA or Europe. In the course of these reflections, it became clear that capitalism was different from what people thought it was. Capital accumulation or permanent growth was possible as long as huge areas of human and non-human production could be colonized. Women, nature, and the people and lands of Africa, Asia, and Latin America seem to have been the main colonies. What was more, these colonies were not only internationalized and interconnected, but they formed the invisible underground foundation for this accumulation process. We used the metaphor of an iceberg, where capital and wage labor form the visible economy, above the water economy, counted in the GDP, where wage labor is protected by a labor contract, and where housework, work in the informal sector, work in the colonies, and nature's production form the underwater part of this economy. I think this was the most important insight for me while I wrote this book. I had started with a rather limited set of questions inspired by the time in the women's movement's theoretical analysis, but I could not find plausible answers to these questions unless I looked at capitalism as a whole. and also at the still existing socialist countries. It was this methodological perspective from below, from the point of view of women, of nature, and colonized people, which ended up in what some people felt to be too vast a vision, too breathtaking a project, too encompassing of an analysis, too demanding and bold of a political strategy. And so we move on to Books Have Their History, how this book was received. Patriarchy and Accumulation on a World Scale has been a controversial book right from 1986 when it first appeared. It provoked reactions of enthusiastic applause as well as of scathing criticism. In spite, or perhaps because of this, it led to a continuous stream of debates in women's studies courses, as well as among people concerned about such issues as the future of work, ecology, and the search for perspectives on a new economy and society. Since the book had been written by a feminist, it took some time for men to discover it, but once they had read it, there was a similar polarization, either rejection or praise. Obviously, this was a book that hit people deep in their innermost feelings and convictions and provoked them to react. It created what I call betrothonheit, a term I'd used early on in the movement to spell out the difference between feminist research and the usual indifferent and uninvolved attitude of positivist mainstream research. The German word betrothonheit expresses not only concern, a state of being affected, but also reflection and the appeal to do something, to act. In this respect, I think the book has been a success. But the fact that it has remained in print and that it is now seeing a new edition is due not only to this characteristic. The book raises some questions that cropped up in the context of the new women's movement, but in the course of time revealed themselves as being, in fact, general questions relevant to everybody. In this sense, one can say that the women's question is not a niche question, but the most general one. Today, when the managers of the global economy have no better recipe to bring down labor costs than by housewifization or flexibilization of labor, people begin to see the relevance of our analysis, begun about 20 years ago, or over 20 years ago. Before I come to some of the more important points of criticism, I want to draw attention to the social and historical context within which this book was written, within which the critique took place, and by which it was influenced. The book appeared in English in 1986. The German translation came out in 1988. I wrote the book in English first because I wanted it to circulate quickly and be accessible to women in the South. The 1980s were the years when the Keynesian welfare state, which had dominated Western economy since the Second World War, came under direct attack by Thatcher in the UK and Reagan in the US. The new neoliberal theory developed by Milton Friedman and the Chicago School provided the theoretical legitimation for the new economic policy, which put the free play of the market over all state regulation and intervention. The main pillars of this market economy, as it was then called, were deregulation, privatization, liberalization, and globalization. This new economic program was first tried out in Pinochet's Chile. Towards the end of the 1980s, it was universalized as the only rational, effective economic model that would lead to lasting prosperity for all through constant growth, competition, and above all, free and unrestricted trade throughout the world. Within a very short time, this new neoliberal dogma was accepted, not only by some conservative governments, but step by step, also by those orientated more towards social democracy. The victory of this neoliberal project was helped by a few important events. One, in 1989, the Berlin Wall was destroyed, signaling the end of East-West polarization, and indeed of the GDR and the USSR. Capitalism, now called the market economy, and neoliberal economic dogma, appeared as the only effective economic model, to which there was no alternative. It was preached not only in the rich industrialized countries of the North, but also in the poor countries of the South, in the so-called tiger states in the Southeast Asia and in Japan, and above all in the states of the erstwhile socialist bloc in Eastern Europe. Two, this neoliberal dogma of deregulation, privatization, liberalization, and globalization had already been imposed on many third world governments who could no longer pay back their debts. The World Bank and the IMF, while rescuing their governments from financial collapse, also imposed these countries the notorious structural adjustment programs, or SAPs, which opened up these economies to foreign capital and investors, cut government programs for the poor, for health and education for women and farmers, and forced farmers to produce for a foreign market. Number three, neoliberal theory and policy was then fixed legally for a world market system through a number of global or regional treaties, such as the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, which in 1995 was transferred to the World Trade Organization, or WTO. The Maastricht and Amsterdam treaties for the European Union, or EU, the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA, of 1994, Mercosur for South America, EPEC for the Pacific Rim states, the last step in this strategy to fix legally, if possible forever, this neoliberal assault of the transnational corporations based on the theory of free trade and free investment within a globalized economy is a multilateral agreement on investments, also known as MAE, which is still not finalized. The MAE is indeed a new global corporate rule treaty, as Tony Clark characterized it. Point four, the fourth factor which contributed to the fast and voracious and victorious spread of neoliberalism and the discrediting of the Keynesian model of attained capitalism with a so-called human face was what has been called the new technological revolution of microprocessors, computers, and later gene technology. From the end of the 1970s and the beginning of the 1980s, the introduction of computers into many production processes and later into communication and administration resulted in a deep crisis in the area of work. Not only were millions of jobs destroyed by the introduction of these labor-saving technologies, it also became clear that there would no longer be any substitute for these jobs in the future, and that full employment, the central demand of trade unions in the North, was becoming obsolete. And even more disquieting, these new technologies began to undermine the very definition of work in the industrialized countries. Machines were now actually making human labor redundant, not just for a while, but for good, it seemed. But in the 1980s were not only the years when the crisis of work began to appear, they were also the time of the rise of ecology movements all over the world. In particular, the struggle against nuclear missiles to be stationed in Europe by NATO and against nuclear power generally had raised the issue of the consequences of the industrial model for the foundations of nature and of life. It became clear that this system, if not checked by people, would destroy the planet and life on Earth. In 1983, the Green Party entered the West German Bundestag, the first ecological party in the world to get into parliament. The ecology movement generated an enormous amount of enthusiasm, particularly among women. In Germany, the Green Party benefited greatly from this enthusiasm. Many women joined the Greens. Petra Kelly was very popular with the media, and though not a feminist, projected an image of the Greens as a women-friendly party. Apart from that, the Greens had taken over a number of feminist demands for their program and reserved 50% of all parliamentary seats for women, a revolutionary step at that time. In fact, in the mid-1980s, it appeared possible that Green politics could synthesize a number of issues which had mobilized people in different movements: ecology, feminism, peace work, and the exploitation of the third world. A solution to all these problems seemed possible, provided, however, that one accepted a holistic worldview and a redefinition of what, quote-unquote, a good life consists of. Towards the end of the 1980s, this optimistic perspective was shattered for many, particularly after the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989. The triumph of global neoliberal capitalism seemed complete. There was no alternative to the market economy. Transnational corporations were now free to invest where they liked, unhampered by protectionist state intervention. Labor lost much of its bargaining power because capital could now simply move to cheap labor countries in a globalized economy. It could also avoid ecological laws and restrictions by moving in parts of the world, particularly in the South, or among the newly emerging economies where such laws did not exist or were not strictly enforced. From the 1990s onwards, joblessness in industrialized countries, particularly in Germany, grew rapidly. The Greens realized that they had to forego a number of their basic demands if they wanted to remain in parliament. Many feminists began to understand that the space for their projects and demands was getting narrower. Many women were threatened by joblessness and poverty, particularly single women and single mothers, And for the young, it became clear that this economy and society was unable to offer them an optimistic perspective. They could not hope to find lifelong full-time employment and job security, something which most of their parents had enjoyed. Within a very short time, the optimism that had characterized a large part of the 1980s had vanished and been replaced by a deep pessimism, often expressed in the Tina syndrome, also known as there is no alternative. I think I've actually talked about that before. These changes in the political, economic, and social situation in the world were accompanied by an ideological and theoretical shift which became known as postmodernism. In the 1980s, and particularly in the arts, social sciences, and literature, but also in women's studies, the new postmodern discourse, as it was called, rapidly sought to do away not only with concepts like patriarchy, capitalism, exploitation, and oppression, but also with concepts like sisterhood or solidarity. Instead of these, which had been key concepts in the earlier phase of the new women's movement, new concepts appeared such as difference and identity, construction and deconstruction. Discourse theory replaced the analysis of social relations and a materialist and historical approach to reality. In fact, postmodernism sought to dissolve reality into an assembly of unconnected events, moments, and social elements, and undermined the sense of reality by emphasizing that everything material and non-material that we perceived around us was a construction of the mind. The materiality of the world was dissolved, and a new idealism was created, which ended up declaring that all reality was only virtual. Postmodern quote-unquote feminism gave up the old goal of the women's movement, the defeat of capitalist patriarchy as a system. Now the only goal was gender equality. This meant that women were merely aspiring to achieve an equal share with men and no longer challenged the system. Even the term system was abandoned as something that had no reality. To join the mainstream or mainstreaming became the new goal. This postmodern ideology fitted exactly into the neoliberal political economy of the 1980s and 1990s. The feminists who followed it expected to get out of the margins and find a niche somewhere in the mainstream. In a time of rising unemployment, this is understandable, particularly when women's studies departments in the Anglo-Saxon world began to refuse to recruit women who did not adhere to the postmodern dogma. This is what Renate Klein observed in 1996 at the International Women's Studies Congress in Adelaide. It is not surprising, therefore, that the critique of patriarchy and accumulation was influenced by this stream of thought. What did surprise me, though, was that many of those who praised the work were typically not from a white middle-class background, but from the South, or from an African-American background. One of the first reviews was written by Esther Figueroa in Off Our Backs. She wrote, quote, "Maria Mies has produced a work which is wonderfully synthetic in approach, tying together a string of issues which most fail to connect. It is a work which shows that nothing in the relationship between the overdeveloped nations and the underdeveloped nations, and therefore the women who live in both, is unconnected or removed from anyone's daily existence. She does this using language which is clear and accessible, and with a vision that is penetrating, inspiring, and creative. It is feminist theory at its best," end quote. In spite of the postmodern argument that otherness was an obstacle to understanding and solidarity, the reception of this book has been proof of the opposite. A similar situation prevailed in Germany. While some feminists in West Germany had been rather Polemical in their criticism, women in East Germany before the fall of the wall, who had managed to get a hold of a copy, said that this book at last explained the reality to them in a plausible way. Most reviewers, however, whether they praised or criticized the book, said that it had revealed the underground connections which make up our present world and link it to the past. In this introduction, I cannot respond to all the points of criticism raised. I shall concentrate on those I consider most relevant to our present situation. These are, among others, 1. The critique of my consumer liberation appeal. 2. The critique of essentialism. 3. The critique of idealizing or romanticizing nature, agrarian societies in the past. So, number 1. Some critics, particularly in Germany, were upset about my proposal to start politicizing consumption as a strategy to counter the logic of accumulation. They qualified the strategy rather as ineffective, individualistic, and too weak to challenge the system, or as moralistic and anti-women. Why should women, again, be the ones to make sacrifices while men continue to consume? The women who criticized this aspect more or less accepted my general analysis of capitalist patriarchy, but they did not want to proceed to any kind of proposal for action. They did not accept that my proposal of consumer liberation was just one possible strategy, rather than the only one. They preferred to remain critical critics. They also failed to appreciate that the suggested new approach was not moralistic or aesthetic, but liberating. The difficulty of explaining to people that less is more, or rather that less can mean a higher quality of life, happiness even, is due partly to our Christian or Protestant ethic, which has been secularized and deeply ingrained into the capitalist worldview. Liberation, on the other hand, was understood only as a kind of spiritual or moral state of mind, a feeling of having clean hands. This ethic also seems to be behind the clean clothes and other fair trade campaigns in our day. But what I mean by liberation is not only a change in the definition of good life, but also different social and economic relations. Consumer boycotts are seen here as powerful methods of throwing monkey wrenches into the works of the accumulation machine. Sandra McChuey writes in her review that as early as 1899, there were strong consumer boycott movements in the USA organized by the feminist-inspired National Consumers League. Consumer boycotts have been effective instruments of struggle in the USA ever since. Number 2, one of the main points of criticism raised by postmodern feminists against my book was that it was close to essentialism. Essentialism is the original sin for postmodernist feminists. Nobody has yet been able to explain to me what essentialism is, but I do understand that this term is used today to signify what we used to call biological determinism. Although biological determinism had been criticized quite early in the women's movement as a method of explaining man's patriarchal dominance by the biological difference between the genders, the postmodernists tabooed even the use of such concepts as woman, mother, land, patriarchy, capitalism, and so on. The fact that women have the capacity to bring forth children, that they can become mothers, is totally devalued, dehistoricalized, and dematerialized. It is considered to be a mere biological accident, which nowadays can be changed by biotechnology. The same applies to the category women. The fact that most people appear in this world as male or female is not accepted as a given because it is possible today to physically change one's so-called gender or one's sexual orientation. The gender discourse in particular contributed to the elimination of such categories as mother or women. In this discourse, sex as supposedly biologically determined and gender as a culturally constructed are being separated and contraposed. This results in the old schizophrenic situation that sex is again dehistoricalized and declared a matter of biology only, which can then be left to reproduction and genetic engineers, while gender becomes the higher affair, where culture plays the determining role, old dualism in a new garb. Philosophically, the critique of essentialism meant the end of the materialist and historical approach to reality. Its main target was, of course, Marxism, and its aim, the reconstruction of a new idealism. To carry on talking of men and women was considered essentialist. To talk of the economy and of social relations of production was seen as economist, because it supposedly ignored the subjective factor. To talk of violence was considered radical feminist, because only radical feminists continued to talk of the scandal of male violence against women and children. To talk of women's commonalities meant ignoring their differences. To talk of nature and women was particularly essentialist because it meant that one thought that women were closer to nature than men. I confess that I am guilty of all these sins. If talking of women's relationship to surrounding nature and suggesting that this relationship has historically been influenced, not determined, but historically influenced by their experience of being a female body, an experience from which they learned and acquired a knowledge which they transformed and passed on from one generation to the next. If stressing the continuity between the human and the non-human world is essentialism, then I am an essentialist. This does not mean that women are closer to nature than men. Men and women are a part of nature. It would be good for both if they recognized this fact. It is a part of the patriarchal project to conceptualize man as the lord and master of nature. Point 3. Critique of my romanticizing or idealizing a subsistence way of life, of my supposed nostalgia for a simpler rule past, refers mainly to the last chapter of the book, where I have tried to draw the contours of a society which is not based on exploitation and oppression of any kind of colonies. Many people say these days that what is lacking most are visions of an alternative society and economy. Yet when someone dares to formulate some of the basic principles necessary for such a vision, then the critique is very often that it is utopian, that it cannot be realized here and now, that it is backward looking, that it romanticizes a simpler life, that it is not progressive. The difficulty of even thinking of an alternative in our industrialized societies is due partly to the concept of linear progress, which dominates Eurocentric thought. People cannot understand that going back and looking for what was better in the past or in non-industrialized societies might be just a creative method of transcending the impasse in which our societies are stranded. They remain fixed in a unilinear mode of thought and end up only with more of the same, usually technological innovations to change society. People in industrialized societies have a particular difficulty in accepting the fact that food still comes out of the earth, that land, therefore, is the foundation of food production and food security. They are usually ready to accept that land is necessary for underdeveloped countries, but they do not see the need to be concerned about land in developed societies. They are also reluctant to step out of their given mindset and dream of another paradigm, unless they are offered a fully fledged model of another economy. They fear to join a process which is already underway and contribute their own creativity and energy. They want security before they step out of their old house. I realize how difficult it is to explain to people, women and men in the industrialized world, that a subsistence perspective could be a better alternative, and that this alternative is already being practiced. That instead of getting trapped by the Tina syndrome and waiting for someone above or technology as the new historical subject to offer a solution, it might be better to look at least as a possible orientation at SIDA, or subsistence is the alternative. That this is not just a joke becomes clear when we see the confusion and perplexity of the managers of the global economy and the financial crisis in Asia, Russia, and at the time of writing, perhaps soon too in South America and in the USA. The global players are at their wits' end, afraid that the financial crisis, the result of their own neoliberal preachings all over the world, could develop into a fully fledged recession like 1929, and that this recession might not be limited to just the countries of the South or to Russia. What surprises me most in the world is that the World Bank and IMF, in spite of the danger signs that they themselves observe, are unable to think of a real alternative. They continue with more of the same. Although they are warning that the world economy might slide into a deep recession, they continue to preach their neoliberal dogma of further deregulation, privatization, and globalization. This incapacity to even think of a true alternative is not just a moral weakness, though that may play a part. It is above all the incapacity to step outside the dominant logic of capital accumulation, out of an economic paradigm based on permanent growth and colonization. I do not expect that the new edition of this book will be able to convert these or other global players to an understanding of capitalism as an iceberg economy, but I do hope that it will help ordinary people in the South and the North not to despair when this iceberg economy again and rapidly produces one crisis after another, for icebergs are very unstable. And that leads us to the end of that part and portion, and we move on to just the quick forward
Okay.
section. All right. So the idea of writing this book arose out of my desire to clarify some of the recurring confusions regarding the issue of feminism. I realized that while the feminist movement was spreading to ever more regions of the world, while women's issues were becoming more and more acceptable to the rulers of the world, the questions of what this movement was fighting against and what it was fighting for were becoming increasingly blurred. While many of us would agree that our enemy is capitalist patriarchy as a system and not just men, we cannot deny that many feminists do not even talk of capitalism, or if they do, have a rather limited notion of this system and simply try to add the feminist analysis to the traditional Marxist analysis. Others only want more equality with men, like the Equal Rights Amendment supporters in the USA, and do not even aspire to transcend capitalist patriarchy as a system. Similarly, most of us feel that the feminist rebellion has crossed all barriers of class, race, and imperialism, because women everywhere are victims of sexism and male dominance. We therefore feel that there is a realistic base for international solidarity among women, or for global sisterhood. On the other hand, we cannot close our eyes to the stark fact that women of all classes in the West, and middle-class women in the Third World, are also among those whose standard of living is based on the ongoing exploitation of poor women and men in the underdeveloped regions and classes. Obviously, it is not enough to say that all women are exploited and oppressed by men. There is not only the hierarchical division between the sexes, because there are also other social and international divisions, intrinsically interwoven with the dominance relation of men over women. That means the feminist movement cannot ignore the issues of class or the exploitative international division of labor and imperialism. On the other hand, the old argument put forward by scientific socialists that the women question is just a secondary contradiction and belongs to the sphere of ideology, the superstructure or culture can no longer be upheld to explain reality for women, particularly since everywhere the feminist rebellion was sparked off around the issue of violence. The unresolved questions concern the relationship between patriarchy and capitalism. In other words, the relationship between women's oppression and exploitation and the paradigm of never-ending accumulation and growth, between capitalist patriarchy and the exploitation and subordination of colonies. These are not academic questions. They concern every woman in her everyday life and the feminist movement in its political goals and existence. If we are unable to find plausible answers to these questions, the danger arises that the feminist rebellion may be co-opted by the forces that only want to continue the destruction model of capitalist accumulation, and which need the vitality of this movement to feed the slackening growth process. The following is not the result of a systematic study of the questions raised. These questions have cropped up again and again in the course of many struggles, discussions, and meetings in which I have participated in recent years. Many of the discussions took place between third world and first world women, some of them in third world countries. The insights gained are not, therefore, something I could have gained without the existence of the international women's movement. Many women and some men gave me valuable ideas or feedback. I cherish most those which challenged some of my assumptions and thus forced me to deepen and broaden my analysis. Thus, the question of what unites and what divides women in overdeveloped and underdeveloped classes, countries, and regions played a crucial role. So did the question of the role of violence in the establishment of patriarchal men-women relations, as well as in the process of capital accumulation. In the course of time, it became clear to me that the confusions in the feminist movement worldwide will continue unless we understand the women question in the context of all social relations that constitute our reality today. That means in the context of a global division of labor under the dictates of capitalist accumulation. The subordination and exploitation of women, nature, and colonies are the precondition for the continuation of this model. The second thing which became clear was the realization that women, in their struggle to regain their humanity, have nothing to gain from the continuation of this paradigm. Feminists everywhere would do well to give up the belief expressed by scientific socialism that capitalism, through its greed for never-ending accumulation or growth, has created the preconditions for women's liberation, which there can be realized under socialism. Today, it is more than evident that the accumulation process itself destroys the core of the human essence everywhere, because it is based on the destruction of women's autonomy over their lives and bodies. As women have nothing to gain in their humanity from the continuation of the growth model, they are able to develop a perspective of a society which is not based on exploitation of nature, women, and other peoples. Methodologically, this means that it is not sufficient to look only at one side of the coin, but it is necessary to study the connections that exist between the various parts which have been divided up by the sexual and international divisions of labor. It also means understanding that these divisions and connections have a material reality because the world market does indeed connect the remotest corners of the world and the strangest of people. But though these connections factually exist, they are almost totally obscured from our consciousness. We factually consume a mass of commodities produced by people in the third world countries, of whom we are not even aware. In order to overcome this alienation brought about by commodity production in the international and sexual division of labor, I have tried not only to look at what has happened to women in the West, but also at what was happening at the same time to women in the colonies. By looking at both sides of the coin, it became possible to identify the contradictory policies regarding women which were and still are promoted by the brotherhood of socialists, capitalists, politicians, and scientists in their effort to keep the growth model going. It became possible to overcome the limited view of cultural relativism, which claims that women are divided by culture worldwide, whereas, in fact, we are both divided and connected by common commodity relations. Looking at both sides of the coin was facilitated in my case by the fact that I had the opportunity to meet and discuss with many women from Asia, Latin America, and Africa, while I worked as a coordinator of the program, Women and Development, at the Institute of Social Studies at The Hague. In addition, the fact that I lived and worked for many years in India and had many contacts with Indian feminists also helped me to look at both sides of the coin. Therefore, much of the following analysis is based on my experiential and empirical knowledge of India and the new Indian women's movement. I owe a great deal of my insights to my Indian sisters, both the rural and the urban ones. The courage with which they are waging a struggle against patriarchal structures and institutions has been a great source of inspiration to me. I have also learned a lot from my third world students at the Institute of Social Studies. Their eagerness to understand what feminism was all about and what relevance it had for themselves and for the burning problems of poverty in their own countries prompted me to look for answers which could be valid not only for Western feminists, but also for third world feminists. Starting with the recognition that patriarchy and accumulation on a world scale constitute the structural and ideological framework within which women's reality today has to be understood. The feminist movement worldwide cannot but challenge this framework, along with the sexual and the international divisions of labor which are bound up with it. The first chapter tries to clarify what the main challenges of feminism are. After a discussion of the history of the new women's movement in the USA and Europe, with special reference to its main issues, campaigns, and debates, it focuses on the question of what differentiates the new women's movement from the old one. Further, what the emergence of feminist movements in Asia, Latin America, and Africa can mean for the solution of the old unresolved questions, namely the character of capitalism, the issue of colonialism, and a socialist vision of a future society. In this respect, the feminist analysis of violence and of housework and the feminist concept of politics have played a crucial role in challenging the old theories of women's liberation. The second chapter tries to trace the social origins of the sexual division of labor. The common, most biologistic assumptions on the origins of the dominance relationship between men and women are critically assessed, and the notion is challenged that this relationship evolved either out of biological or of economic determinants. It is emphasized that the monopoly over arms in the hands of the man, the hunter-warrior, constitutes the political power necessary for the establishment of lasting relations of exploitation between men and women, as well as between different classes and peoples. Thus, the exploitative sexual division is the social paradigm upon which the international division of labor is built up. The third chapter traces the history of the related and double-faced processes of colonization and housewifeization. The conquest and exploitation of the colonies from the 16th century onwards was the basis for capital accumulation in Europe, but equally important was the destruction of the autonomy of women over their bodies and life during the witch pogroms during the same centuries. In this chapter, I try to trace the processes and policies by which other countries and women are defined as nature or made into colonies to be exploited by the white man in the name of capital accumulation or progress in civilization. The fourth chapter extends this analysis to the contemporary new international division of labor and the role which women have to play as the cheapest producers and consumers in the world market system. The policy of defining women everywhere as dependent housewives, or the process of housewifeization, is identified as the main strategy of international capital to integrate women worldwide into the accumulation process. This implies the splitting up of the economy and the labor market into a so-called formal, modern sector in which mainly men work, and into the informal sector where the masses of women work, who are not considered to be real wage workers but housewives. The fifth chapter focuses on the role of violence against women in the establishment of production relations which are not based on wage labor proper. This is based mainly on the experiences of women in India and on their forms of direct violence against women are now analyzed not as a result of some timeless inborn male sadism, but as a mechanism in the process of ongoing primitive accumulation by which men try to accumulate wealth and productive capital based not on economic, but on direct coercion and on the extension of patriarchal control over women. In this chapter, it is shown that patriarchal violence is not a feature of some feudal past, but the necessary correlate of the so-called modernization process. The sixth chapter addresses itself to the question of whether socialist countries which have gone through a war of liberation or a revolution of some sort can provide the desired alternative for women's liberation, which, according to the foregoing analysis, is not possible under the laws of capital accumulation. On the basis of the examples of the USSR, China, and Vietnam, it is shown that in spite of the socialist rhetoric about women's participation in social production, the socialist accumulation process is also, in reality, based on the same mechanism as housewifeization, and on the model of dualizing the economy into a male-dominated progressive socialist sector, and into a subsidiary private or informal sector where mostly women are found. The last chapter is devoted to the attempt to develop a feminist perspective of a future society which would, indeed, transcend the accumulation model based on the ever-expanded growth of commodities, wealth, and productive forces. A society in which nature, women, and other peoples are not colonized or exploited for the sake of others, and the abstract idea of progress would have to be based on the recognition that our human world is finite. It would require a new concept of work which would transcend the present division between necessary labor, increasingly regulated to machines, and creative labor reserved for human beings. The maintenance of the combination of necessary and creative work is seen as a precondition for human happiness. Such a concept of labor would have to lead to the abolition of the present sexual division of labor, as well as the international division of labor. It would have to be based on an alternative economy, an economy which would not be based on exploitation of nature, women, and colonies, but would attempt to be self-sufficient to a large extent. A first step towards such autonomy and the regaining of control over our lives and bodies could be a consumer liberation movement, started by women in the overdeveloped classes and countries. Such a movement, combined with the production liberation movement in underdeveloped countries and classes could go a long way towards women's liberation on a global context. And done.
Yay! Thank
That was
you for
a lot of
doing
big
all
words.
that reading.
So hopefully that was digestible out there for everyone.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward to this one. Mm.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Another reason why I wanted to do that sort of new preface thing is because that postmodern feminist bullshit that she was going off about, which is crazy because this is the 1990s. She was going off about this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really take it a real closer consideration to people who have been pointing it out for that long of time. Really.
Oh yeah. She was right.
Bells.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we know it came from academia, right? Like,
right? And then she was there when it actually, like, she saw the whole thing. She's dead now. She actually died a few years ago, but she was there in that whole sort of shift towards the 70s, 80s into the 90s, and she saw that the emergence of that, right? And tried to send the warning bells. So props to that.
Oh, it sounds like a terrifying couple of decades to witness, doesn't it?
Right.
But I loved the term housewifeization. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, right. And I know that you've also have like been talking about like, what about mothers? What about, that like sector that a lot of the radical feminists like to just ignore or look down and just devalue?
Yeah,
she
absolutely.
really goes in on that. That's why I thought that this would be a perfect one to do with you.
Yeah,
because she really delves into that part and like what the necessary need of like not to like just kick down women who work in these sectors because it's still work. It's just unpaid work. Yes, it's exploitation, but that doesn't mean you just devalue it more. Like that's just so patriarchal.
Becoming a mother is what made me realize we need to change the whole system. Right?
Yeah.
To me, they are intrinsically linked. It's never made any sense to me that they are seen as mutually exclusive. I mean, you want to have your opinion on how important it is. I get that. But the idea that I'm not allowed to be one because I reproduce, that's what the fuck kind of political organization, what the hell kind of political philosophy is that?
Well, exactly. That's one of the issues, right? And that I think has a lot to do with the fact that they don't really look at capitalism on a whole, right? Some might claim that they're against it, but a lot of them don't even. They really narrow it down to just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Without that. But you can't, but the thing is, our culture is embedded in it. So you have to look at capitalism and the like interplay between that and the division of sexual relations.
You have to be blind not to look at capitalism when you deal with our society. What?
Exactly, right? But a lot of the time, the critique of male violence is completely devoid and disassociated with capitalism, really. For a lot of the time, that I feel that anyways. Which it sucks because, like, I'm just like, how can you not? Like, I've said this before too. Like, you have to have a class analysis. You have to consider capitalism, and like, I hate the term intersectionality because it's been completely shat on, and it means completely devoid of what it should mean. But you need to look at the interplays and these intersections of class, of all three classes, which is race, sex, and capital. Because they are intermingled, so you can't just get rid of one and expect it to just stay. If you don't look at all three, you'll never get rid of any of them because they're so intertwined together as reality. So
wait, are you suggesting that reality is multifaceted? God damn it.
I know. Crazy idea. Oh, look, we got a blue dude and a water.
Yeah, water Lilon. I don't know.
That's an interesting name.
That's been there for a little while, I waved at them.
Oh, good.
I don't know who that is. It doesn't matter, I guess. I'm pretty sure they're loved.
Well, Maybe they'll come back and they'll listen to the rest. Who knows?
Maybe they will. I'm just gonna have a lozenge because it's allergy season. So
Yeah, that's good.
I apologize if there's noise.
I hear puppy.
Oh well, that's not me. You know.
Yeah.
I have no control over that.
But I know she
But
talks
yeah.
about the Tina syndrome too, because I think I've mentioned that to you before with the Tina, and you asked
Yes.
what that is. There is no alternative. That was a big thing in the 90s, in Thatcher world too, and Reagan, after Thatcher and Reagan, there is no alternative. The way that they promoted that idea, because people will be like, well, you want to be, if you get capitalist, you want to be you commie. I'm like, who says I'm a commie? We can put people on the moon, but we can't come up with something that's different than just the two different economies, even though they're so similar. Because communism is quite like capitalism in its accumulation. It just wants state and it wants private. So they're very similar in structure. We can put people on the moon, but we can't come up with an alternative. That's stupid. Of course,
the clampdown on the narrative in the 80s is very evident, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like dissent became a big, no-no. It was very.
Yeah. It was very postmodernish. It was like individualistic, postmodern era.
Well, that's one of the ways you keep dissent down, right? Is because.
Well, yeah. Well, postmodern is like a neoliberal's wet dream, like of individualism, so fierce that it just has you looking at your own damn navel, gazing at it, fucking not doing anything. So that way, neoliberalism can go on exploiting while you're busy looking at your goddamn navel and gazing at it.
Don't say you're not doing
really
anything.
Good and all hand in hand. So yeah.
Don't say you're not doing anything while you're navel gazing, because you're also patting yourself on the back.
Exposing your neck. Yeah, right.
Patting yourself on the back.
Oh, exposing your neck. Chop it off.
Damn, honey. Okay. You need another camping trip.
Wow. On the back, not realizing that the fucking sword is about to chomp down over you by your overlord, capitalist overlords or whatever.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I just never found my navel all that interesting. Sad case, really.
It's just there. I don't really care about it.
Yeah. I did have one objection though.
What?
Realizing that this is from the 90s.
This is from the this is from the 90s, but you'd be surprised how relevant it is.
No. It's very 99%. Mwah. Excited about it. The only objection was, and is completely nullified by the fact that it's 30 years old. I didn't realize it was that old. Because she goes that, all these feminist games and whatever may be co-opted by blah, blah, blah. I'm like, maybe?
Yeah.
What do you mean, maybe?
Well, that's because she was in this was written in a time.
Yeah. No,
so,
this absolutely flips that around. Now she just looks prophetic.
Yeah, I know, really, right?
Yeah.
Now that's already happened. She was correct. She was spot fucking on. That's why that's why it's really I think important to read this. When people point out older books where they pointed out things before it happened and they were right, really gets me okay, this person has something. They know stuff.
Right.
They probably have something going on writing down, so I better keep reading, right? And it's very how prophetic some of her talk about the postmodernism, the co-optation, the recession, even because this is before the big recession and the big crisis over and over again too.
Before either of them.
So she really pointed out a lot of things that actually occurs later on.
Yeah.
After the book was written.
That's why I didn't think it was that old.
Yeah, it's pretty old. Yeah,
I took that as a reference to 2008.
No, I know. It's before that.
Wow,
But that's another thing too. I think a lot of the time people just throw away a lot of these socio-political books when they get to a certain age. When they get really old, you don't hear
throwing away a book because it's old is really dumb.
So what?
Like, no,
sometimes it's
no.
good to look at the old greats, and maybe some greats that you don't even know exist because they've been hidden and obscured. Like, it's important to go
Obviously.
back to see. But
Like,
people,
again, maybe this is just, I've been dipping back into occultism, and maybe this is just because I was raised with this whole idea of like, no, obviously, the older something is, the better it is, right?
mhm,
Which I don't agree with
right?
that either.
Yeah, no,
But like, it's just so completely the opposite. I know people
yeah,
who feel who live their lives that way. You know, the older they can get, the better it is. That's
yeah.
funny.
For my experience, a lot of the a lot of the old stuff tends to be like, right? People don't really pay attention to that, but I'm like, but it's
Yeah.
really relevant now, and they were real
No, no,
prophetic.
no. You're right. And in the social sciences, it's completely the opposite, and it's ridiculous either way. But like the abandoning of wisdom is extremely frustrating,
Yeah.
and possibly one of the biggest problems in the world today, right? Like,
Well, how many times do we hear like a lot of the younger liberal feminists that are all trans happy? How many times we hear like, "Oh,
mhm,
you old dinosaur, yeah, that's an old." There is, as if that somehow
bad,
like it makes it not correct or makes it wrong or makes you
right,
right. Like that doesn't make anything.
right.
That has
Whereas
no relevance.
if something manages to persist over time, doesn't that make it maybe worth investigating?
Yeah, maybe listen to the maybe yeah, maybe understand your past. Like
Right. Now that's
to
called
understand what was going
context.
on and like before your time is probably relevant to you now because
History is
things
literally
tend
just
to come back
context.
around. What?
History is literally just context
Yeah,
for your life, for everyone's life. You know, like
yeah. It's
never.
how you got to where you are, and maybe you
Yeah,
should see what they were going on
yeah.
then too to
I've
understand
never
where
understood
you are.
people who are like, "Oh, I don't care about history. I don't like history." I'm like,
Yeah, I think
"That's
that has a lot
fun.
to do
That's
with the way
nice."
that the educational system kind of treats history, anyways. That's probably because like I was never really one for history until like I got into more under like political understanding, and then
That's
yeah, going
crazy.
back and learning history is very fascinating when you're able to do that without that institutionalized concept of it.
I feel like a good historical drama at the right age fixes that. That's for most people, right?
No, yeah, no, I can see that totally.
Mm. Anyway, it's very important to understand these things, and coming at it from the more political, I really just do come at it more from the interpersonal perspective of history, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the politics to me is like a layer on top, whereas
Well,
I
yeah,
think that
historical socio-political concepts, so that's more social as well.
mhm,
Historical. So
mhm.
yeah, both I think are very much intertwined that and necessary for understanding.
You know, and that's
So
why I've had to learn the political stuff, is because without it, the social stuff doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
you're like, wait, why did that guy kill the other guy? Oh, because one of them was black.
Well, just look at the witch burnings
Oh, like
without
what?
understanding the politics behind it. It just seems like like some sort of like cultural, like cult madness, you know?
Hmm.
Without
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
without understanding the political aspects of that time that was going on. It looks like what do they call it? Sort of like a when all of a sudden people like just all of a sudden go mad together.
Mass
It's like
hysteria.
there you go. It's yeah. It's
Hmm.
and it's been taught as or thought of as mass hysteria. Without the politics behind it, you don't know, and it would be anything else but that. But once you
Right,
intertwine that, you're like, oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did doing there, right? And then that
yeah,
makes way more sense when you connect the two.
right. We could be talking about the witch trials again.
Yeah, she does go into a little bit of it. She doesn't do
No,
so much
yeah.
of a huge deep dive, but she does talk about it because it is important to where we are today, is how we got here, which
Oh,
was based
absolutely,
upon.
absolutely. And that's why, because I was going over, before you got on, I was talking about how I'm working on outlining the script for October's video.
Yeah.
And that's, the reason why anybody should care about this shit is because this girl's going around whipping up people who believe in demons.
And mass hysteria, yeah,
That's
which is
bad.
dangerous because it's a political tool.
Yes. And this is the way, this has happened before. This is real life, real world stuff that's dangerous
Yeah.
for real people in real life.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah.
and I'm going to go, I know exactly which part of the Caliban that really touches on this, and I'm going to go back and reference that because what a book! Like we've got to do something with all that information.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoy it. If you've been doing this, I'm really glad that because I remember beforehand, I was like, "You got to read this, you got to watch this, you got to do this," and you're like, "I'm getting to it."
Yeah. Thank you for the
So I'm
help.
like, I will read it to you.
I am so busy, girl. I don't even want to talk about it, literally.
Well, it's
But
also
like,
trying to figure out like what should come first, and like when you're on your own and trying to figure out to go. Well, it helps if someone already has a whole library, like I do.
and some serious, like a good understanding of what the heck each text is
Yeah,
involving.
exactly.
You know. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's what helps. You know, and if that's
Oh
what
yeah.
helps, I will gladly do it.
Well, thank you eternally and 1,000 times because it's really let's see, it illustrates what could potentially be the route that we go, you know, in the near future.
Exactly.
If people like the, you know, and because
The knowledge is power.
and it sounds, I don't know. On the one hand, I still hate to feel like a conspiracy theorist, you know.
Yeah, you have to really get over that.
I know. On the other hand, it occurred to me a few years ago that everybody's a conspiracy theorist these days because the mainstream narrative doesn't make any sense.
Well, just because, like, the association with conspiracy theorists is the association to the stupid Alex Jones sort of flat earthers.
No, I know. It's
Crap that
also
I
a
think has been
psyop.
put there on purpose to make it
I know.
that association. So, but
I know.
like, it's not that crazy of a conspiracy that people of the particular class with power want to maintain that power and go about doing it since they do have the resources. Why wouldn't
Oh
they?
my God.
It's not even
Oh
a
my God.
conspiracy theory. It's common sense.
I have one for you. This made me laugh and want to cry yesterday so bad because I'm listening to a podcast that's psychoanalyzing Donald Trump. And I'm like, this is cathartic. I can listen to this for a while, you know. But I was particularly interested in their guest who wrote a book about malignant narcissism and how it's a danger to the entire world. And I was like, yes, finally, someone is talking about this in so many words, you know. And it was great for about 20 minutes. And then one of the last things he said was he had tried to get an article published in a newspaper recently and had failed because nobody wants to talk about this stuff right now. Which, okay, true. But like, because his article was that there is evidence that despots work together behind the scenes.
Of course, yeah. Obvious.
No shit, Sherlock. This is 3 gray hairs who, between the 3 of them, are probably almost as old as Harvard, all right? What the fuck, dude?
You just learned this now?
Yeah, come on, man. Can't you give us a little more any more specifics than that? That's what you got. That's what you got.
That's all that you got so far.
Oh.
You know what? Maybe people behind the scenes with the same goals working together to achieve those goals.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, you come on, catch up.
Yeah.
This is established already. I would hope. Jeez.
Yeah. And it's the kind of thing where I'm just, it shocked me so hard. I was walking around the neighborhood. I was going for a walk and it stopped me literally dead in my tracks. And I just thought, wait.
You just stopped there and you're like, wow.
I did. I was like, wait, am I smart or are they dumb? I don't even know right now. Like,
you have like an existential crisis over this.
A little bit
over
because
that fucking stupidity. It's just like, yeah.
These are academics, you know, who are like, it's 2 psychiatrists and I forget what the other guy is, a social scientist or something maybe, but
yeah,
like,
no Noam Chomsky.
No. I just like, God damn it, middle-aged white guy syndrome strikes again. God damn it.
Right?
You know, like,
oh, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness, those dogs going crazy.
What is?
The dogs.
Oh, I don't even hear them anymore. There's so many damn dogs around here. Everybody around here's got dogs.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, go over what next chapter, which is called "What is Feminism." I wanted to go through that. So the next time, what we're going to be doing is that chapter, and it says, here's all the subchapters. Where are we today? Fair weather feminism. What is new about feminism? Continuities, discontinuities. Then we go into continuities, women's liberation, a cultural affair. Discontinuities, body politics, a new concept of politics, and women's work concepts. Then exploitation or oppression, subordination. Then the next one's capitalist patriarchy. Then we get into overdeveloped, underdeveloped societies, and autonomy. So that was what we'll be doing for not next week, but the week after. So we're going to be talking about the feminism, what it is, what it was then, what it might be today, and where it's being co-opted, and where we should be going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's for next time. So that should be interesting.
Cool. By my estimation, feminism was co-opted even before the 80s. Like, it's bad.
Yeah. Well, 80s is the exact time when it was co-opted with that postmodernism dribble coming out of like the different areas and academics, like with Michel Foucault and all that, and all the
No, I think that's when they finalized it. I think it happened in the 70s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of the 70s were pretty like the hippie era.
Yeah.
Free love era. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was somehow sexually liberating for you to become a commodity.
Right.
Yeah.
And
we don't like that. That's not a good concept.
The sexual revolution was totally mainstreamed in the 70s.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and totally not good for women.
No.
That was a man's desire.
Oh, absolutely.
The left man's desire to have women become public property instead of privately owned in the house, right?
Right.
So
right.
that
How revolutionary.
Actual women's liberation at all.
Nope.
So you're right on that. You're actually quite right on that part.
Yeah, and just which is so that's which there's actually a couple of big milestones that people like to quote from the 70s, and it's so depressing. But like, the bellwether for all of it, of course, is Gloria Steinem and how famous she was.
Oh yeah, the CIA plans. When people bring that up, because I've seen a lot of people that are feminists, like even women, bring that up, like, oh, like the women's movement, yeah, it's just this. I mean, Gloria Steinem. I mean, the fact that they put Gloria inside and tried to co-opt the feminist movement shows that there is a particular reason why they did that it was dangerous for the global elite. They put that in just like they did with the civil rights movement and the Black liberation movement.
Sorry.
The reason why they put Gloria there was because it was working and they needed to get rid of that.
The only reason you could that pisses me off when people are like, well, the feminist movement is all of the co-opted, psyop bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to disregard it instead of maybe thinking that, it's, oh my God.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like the feminist movement isn't anything because like it was just a psyop. The whole feminist movement was a psyop because of Gloria. No, Gloria was put in there because it was working and they needed to ban that whole thing before it became too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like they did the same thing with the civil liberation movement, with the Black liberation movement, but you don't see that as being the same.
Oh, women can't be dangerous. Black men can be dangerous, but women can't be dangerous. Don't be silly.
Yeah, it's like how can you not see the like completely disconnect of those two, and then think one thing's, even though the same thing happened, one thing is illegitimate and one thing is how is
misogyny?
Yeah.
And racism, possibly racism as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they legitimately think that the civil rights movement was proper and it was dangerous and is necessary, but then disregard women. But that's the same thing that happened to the Black liberation movement, and that's the same thing that was happening to. How is it not the same? So why is one legit? It's not. They're both legitimate, and they both were actually danger to that understanding, that class understanding and
Well, like,
collective
I
understanding, and that's why they did it. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, the fact that they
obviously
can't
women
say
not wanting
that.
to give free labor is a big whoopie do to the status quo. That's a big deal.
Yeah, yeah,
How
because both the international division of labor, so race and the third world, and women are part of what she said, the shadow economy, where it's free labor,
right? I love
basically.
that metaphor of the iceberg. Actually, I thought that worked
Right?
really
Yeah,
well.
where you have the class on top where you can see it, but the underground
Right.
shadow economy, which you don't even recognize as being exploitative for capital, is women and the third world, because it
Right.
obfuscates it. Yeah.
Yep.
And naturalized. Yeah. No, it's a really great book. I can't wait to get into it.
The
I'm so
explanation
excited.
of making of she doesn't just say naturalized. She uses a different phrase, and maybe that's because she's a second. English is her second language. I
Yeah.
forget what it was exactly, like made to be from nature or something, where it's
Naturalized,
free
but she
because
said,
it's right,
yeah.
but she put it another way
Yeah,
that
I know
like
she did. I'm trying to think of it. I can't remember either
that
exactly.
it made it hit me better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I just can't exactly remember the term that she used either. But yeah, she's
We'll get
German,
it
right?
next
So this is
time.
her second language. But we'll go
Right.
through that. She will repeat it. I know that she will.
Yeah.
So
We'll get it next time. I'm looking forward to it too. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, I love.
and
And
if you
the
want
people
to,
that I've actually read this book to, that I've recommended it to, I've really enjoyed it as well. I've never actually heard anyone that had massive issues with it. So I do think it's a good one. I think it's necessary for anyone who's interested in socio-political aspects of the present should be
that
reading
makes
this book.
sense. I love the way she took on the criticisms right at the beginning, and like, I enjoyed that part where she was just calling essentialism garbage. I thought that was really
Oh
cool.
yeah, the essentialism aspect, where like they're like, you're an essentialist. Well, then fine, I'm an essentialist, because guess what? Materialism and materialist reality exists.
Yay!
We are, and yeah, we're not any more natural or more closer to nature than men, because we are all part of nature. Like we do live in a material world with other things and beings that constitute a habitual world.
That might have been my favorite, but I didn't get a chance to write it down. About the things she said about how the more developed you are, the more difficulty you have with the concept that food comes from the ground.
Yeah, well, it's true too. It's
Yes,
so true.
it is. It really
It's
is.
okay for the underdeveloped countries, but us civilized Westerners,
We don't eat
we
dirt
are above
food.
nature, and we don't need to know where it comes from, or that way it might be, food security might be a thing because it comes from the store.
And it's like literally so pathetically, like childishly, like
Obvious.
like Stone Age level thinking to be like, not dirt food. We don't eat dirt food. We eat clean food from the clean place. Like what?
Yeah. Sterilized at the store, ready to go. And it just manifests itself there, probably from the mind in our virtual reality.
Oh my god!
Anything else would be essentialist.
It's so self-hating. That's what I come back to, because like you said, we are part of nature, and it is. It's very self-hating, that attitude.
Yeah.
Just trying to separate yourself.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yay, learning. I'm such a nerd.
No, me too.
The funnest thing I've got going on, I'm like reading.
I'm writing, and I have to try and go convince my friend. Did I tell you he gave me? I did last week. I told you that he gave me like a sort of a deadline, and he wants to throw money at it and everything. And then I got to thinking, like, what about an editor though?
Yeah.
Like screw my process. Even if I could just completely rearrange that. What about hiring an editor at some point? Like that's traditional, isn't it?
That
and just
should happen.
and just these other thoughts that like occurred to me, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him this week, so I'm pissed. But that's okay. I'll have an update on that in a couple of weeks. And if you want to just email me about it when you read it, like we don't have to do that. We don't have to do all that on here.
Yeah, no, we won't. Okay. Well, for what I have read it, I have to read it when I go camping. It's like I just don't have time.
No, yeah. And just as at whenever it occurs to you, to get back to me about it, just
Well, it helps too to there to read it when I go there because it'll be on my tablet, so I don't have to just bring a bunch of books with me. So it'll be along with other books that I have, will be just on my tablet that I bring. So it'll be the
That's
first thing I
cool.
read. Because I love sitting there by the fire, reading a good book at night, and with the quiet and the crickets and the fresh air. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get out of here.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that being said, I need to go and start getting ready to actually get packed up for cat camp because I'll be going in a couple days.
Okay. Yeah, I should get
On
off of
Friday.
here and get ready to go run errands for the day too. So.
Yeah, but I'm glad that we did this. So yay!
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much again. 1,000 thank yous.
No, I'm enjoying myself immensely. We can actually talk and discuss these books I've read because someone finally.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I will see everyone not next week, but the week after that.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2 weeks. Yeah. Watch this space. Yeah. All right.
All right. Bye.
See everybody then. Bye.